Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. Sorry about yesterday. It was a bit of a holiday, and so I'm back here. But today we are talking about a more generalized subject, and that is why Level Up Advanced 5e or Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. And I will be shortening it to A5E for Advanced 5th Edition. And I may be referring to uh, a Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition as O5E or Original 5E. And we're going to be talking about other systems, especially Tales of the Valiant and MCDM and Critical Role and that kind of thing. And one of the biggest questions that some people may have, despite a a prior question to it, is why level up fifth edition? Why A5E when we already have fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons, and now we are starting to see other rewritten from the ground up. Uh, call them clones, for lack of a better word, on the horizon. Now, Level Up A5E has actually existed at least a year, maybe 2 years prior to Wizards of the Coast sticking their foot in their mouth at the beginning of 2023 in January about trying to deauthorize uh, the legal agreement that they had with the public and our community in terms of designing things for the rule set of this D20 system. And mind you, that it went from trying to take it completely away from everyone to putting it in Creative Commons. And by putting it in Commons, it allowed so many other um, companies to basically do what they want with the rule set and their system, including Cobalt Press. And prior to that, it of course was N-World. I happen to be a contributing writer to the Trials and Treasures book, the three books that are part of A5E. And some ask, well, like, why should I play this game versus the others? Now, first of all, if you are I'm going to say a familiar rule set. So while there are some people out there thinking, oh, great, Dungeons and Dragons, we're going to just really twist it and change it up. The the practicality of that is limited because first, those who are playing a D20 system are familiar with that rule set. There's not much you can change in terms of the dice mechanic. Also, the individuals who have purchased books and other materials and own other materials, it behooves the creators, N-World, MCDM, Cobalt Press, and many others to not make all of the prior work obsolete. They would either have to create a brand new game that starts from scratch that doesn't have any relationship to other systems, or they would have to create a brand new system, go back in their entire catalog and rewrite all the mechanics and even some of the descriptors to bring it forward, thereby having literally two camps. And that's going to be very difficult for anyone who is looking for a system other than D20 mechanics, to and the way it's armor class, saving throws, class levels, things of that nature. You're not going to see very much variation on that. So um, that's the limitation of expanding the rule set out. Now, why A5E? Like, why does it exist? Why should you try it out? I thought about making like top 5 reasons, but these are just those off the top of my head. Having sat with this system for a while, and what would make you decide or not decide to be part of purchasing or even engaging with A5E. Now, for me, one of them is character creation. The character creation system has done something I think is it was not only just inevitable, but makes perfect sense both for players and narrators who want to create their own settings, as well as the fact that it was a long time coming. And that is separating the biology of the character versus the culture of the character. So you could have dragonborn and humans and gnomes live in a desert versus dragonborn humans and gnomes that live in a um, coastal region. And both camps would have a different culture. Those who live in the desert would be adapted to desert and have their own culture and languages and ways of survival versus the people who live on a tropical coast, let's say. And you can of course pick other venues there, from deserts and swamps and mountains to large metropolitan cities and into the underlands of deep caverns and fantastical regions. And so to think that all elves everywhere, for some reason, all are experts at short and long swords and short and long bows is a little bit ridiculous. And this isn't just something new. These thoughts have been hanging around for 40 plus years in the gaming community. It just was a long time coming to just accept the fact that, and there's so many other games outside of D20 that do this. So character creation, I think, is primary in Level Up 5th edition. Now, what I have here is on the screen. Oops, here we go. Have on the screen is the main website for uh, Level Up 5e. It's actually levelup5e.com. It's down in the doobly doo. And this is just the opening page, and it gives updates on various things that are coming up, uh, being attached to A5E. And in terms of Level Up, there is a consistent release of new materials for this game. So if you're someone who's like, hey, listen, if I buy a new system and I get into this and it's got, yes, I appreciate having all the additional options. I love the character creation, but I'd also like to have more materials released for it. N World is releasing more materials. They have a huge laundry list of excellent creators, and then somehow I got involved in some of this in some kind of way. But there's some excellent creators, and they're releasing adventures. And if you join the Patreon, they have new releases there once a month and such. And there's always new monsters and new adventures and NPCs and things of that nature. So you can sign up for um, additional information. They're always releasing great artwork and things of that nature. So please do. If you're someone who is like, hey, I'd like to find something else other than classic Dungeons and Dragons, support a third party publisher. And I hear about these other systems, but and I already have books that should be compatible. I'd like to upgrade my system, and this is a good way to do that. Um, Another way to think about, like, why should I get into A5E is um, to further with the character creation. All of the and this might come across as a negative to me. I mean, to some people, but I think it's a positive. I'm using the term a smoothing out. All of the materials from day one were rewritten from the ground up. So yes, of course, there's still armor class, there's still hit points, but a lot of the math had peaks and valleys in it and unintended consequences. There were also mechanisms that required players to make additional steps to do a thing, and those mechanisms were smoothed out. So, for example, there were fifth edition had many exploits, and there are players out there who are um, essentially they're like math hunters, they're math geniuses, and they can find the exploits in the system, whether it's being able to quadruple the power of a smite from a paladin, or exploit the power of a sneak attack from a rogue, or capitalize on the eldritch blast by only taking 1 to 3 levels of warlock to add it to their character so that they have this powerful ability. And all of those abilities have been smoothed out. So for example, the Herald, which is the A5E version of the Paladin, has the ability to smite enemies, smite evil enemies with their power, but there's no need to transfer. It's just become a character class ability. There's no need to translate spell levels to in order to smite. They have smite, they have spell levels. The two are somewhat separate. The none may none may ever meet. They actually do meet in the middle, but smite has just become a character ability, like a rogue has the ability to sneak attack. Same thing with the warlock. The warlock has an eldritch ability that's unique to their character class function, and it sits there. Also, with the smoothing out, the peaks and valleys have been smoothed so that, again, the exploits aren't there like you would normally see it. Uh, um, Another addition to this with the character creation are martial abilities. There are 176 martial maneuvers specifically for martial classes that kind of run in parity to how magic works for the magically endowed classes. So if you want to have one or more, or maybe an entire party of characters that have no magic, but they still have martial abilities and special abilities in terms of their martial prowess using weapons and unarmed combat and maneuvering in and around the battlefield, this is why you should get A5E, because they they operate in parity to spells, although it kind of makes them I would call it a quarter class caster if you had to use that kind of nomenclature. So I think that's a big deal. Um, a big one for A5E, despite the other clones out there. Let me put up like Tales of the Valiant, for example. Um, this is the Kickstarter page from for Tales of the Valiant RPG launching Black Flag role playing, which is funny because the Black Flag name has become kind of popular, and which is that's the downside to this. Oh wow, it's already moved up since I've been here. But anyway, the Tales of the Valiant Kickstarter has well kicked off for Cobalt Press, and it is their version of rewriting Dungeons and Dragons. And I know some people have been following some of the playtest materials. Now, I believe Tales of the Valiant is going to add some of the playtest materials into the Kickstarter. And mind you, you can find many people have been analyzing some of it, and do they find it nice? Do they not find it nice? Do they find some of the changes are not changed enough or changed too much? That depends on you. But again, they have Kobo Press has been around for quite a while, and they have a lots of old materials, and they probably monetarily, the economics of it is they don't want to make all of their back catalog useless. That would literally kill their business model. So this is absolutely going to be in conjunction as much as possible with Classic Fifth Edition, and you're not going to see removal of classes. You're not going to see the six uh, popular stats changed up or anything like that. But you will see some changes, and if you follow some of the changes to Tales of the Valiant in terms of their playtest materials, you'll see what they're coming across. Like, for example, the removal of spells with level and classes with level, and using the word level twice to mean two different things. Now spells are called circles, and I guess the first circle to the ninth circle, um, that kind of thing. Here are all of the these are all of the levels here in Tales of the Valiant. Now, um, I think one of the hallmarks that is unsung about A5E is the lethality in advanced fifth edition. The surveys were conducted, and people wanted that. I like lethality, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a funnel, a DCC funnel, but and here we have a Tales of the Valiant. We have a number of their materials and adventures and things like that. They don't want to make them useless, and if you already own them, they don't want to make them useless, and they still have them. So yeah, absolute, and they are promoting their adventures that are that go with the game, because they want to encourage people not only to buy this system and support a third party, but continue playing uh, D20 fantasy Dungeons and Dragons style gaming. And so we have some things by Lazy Wolf and Ghostfire Gaming, the Vineyard Project, Kaboa, Steamforge Games, Necromancer, and Frog God Games. Virtual tabletop. That's another thing. Oh, that I'll say. Here, let's share this. And there we go. Another reason to get into A5E are the online toolset. Um, while this is still an open beta, information is still being added to it. If you go to, it's down on the doobly doo. If you go to a5e.tools, you will see that the entire rule set is available in open beta and for electronic tools. So here at Level Up Advanced 5th Edition, we got all the sources for the games, character options such as like the heritage and cultures, all the destinies which have kind of replaced the alignment system. Although the alignment system does kind of exist as a trait, or yeah, it's like a trait or an aura of sorts. We do have the combat maneuvers for uh, the different traditions that are listed here, as well as all their capabilities, spells, magic items, all the types of monsters, exploration challenges, which we'll get into in just a minute, and then some useful pages for the rule set. Maybe there's all of these D20 systems are going to have slight variations, so you're going to see that it's like, wait, what's the difference from fifth edition from O5E to A5E? Well, here you can take a look at that. Here's some extra tools for like encounter building, monster building, object statistics and things like that. Random random book titles and random other tables, and then a blog to talk about it. So this is I think, especially if you're someone who is very electronic, you play your games through virtual tabletops, you have a laptop next to you as the narrator, you're a player and you really you're like, I can't keep up with all my spells. This is, uh, I think this is a no-brainer. Digital tools, is it exactly like D&D Beyond? No. A lot more money and other things like that, but yeah, it gets into it. So yet another reason to take a look at A5E, talk about the lethality, specifically getting into the lethality are four things combined together that are intrinsic to the rule set if you play it, that increase the tension and allow other vectors of challenge. And that is fatigue, strife, havens, and supply. So fatigue is a replacement for exhaustion. It basically is the physical fatigue is like physical exhaustion in fifth edition, and in A5E there is strife, which is mental exhaustion. And so fatigue and strife are the great equalizers. Doesn't matter what level you are, first level, eighth level, 17th level, you can still be killed by getting too many levels of either fatigue or strife. To alleviate that, you need a safe place to rest. That's a haven, and you need to have consumables, and that is supply. And havens and supply are the two things that really help you so that you don't die from fatigue and strife. And so that's a big that those four amalgamate with each other in the game. Of course, if you're 10th level, you're 12th level, your 17th level, your 20th level, you are not going to have to worry about, making a camp or anything like that. But if you're traveling even to extra dimensional planes, you still need a safe place to rest, and you still need some form of consumables to survive, unless a character doesn't need to breathe or eat or sleep any longer. But that's a different thing for characters that are 10th level and above. But the ability to survive out in a wild, uncharted wilderness, be it your local woods or a swamp, a vast desert or whatever, I think that's a big thing. to consider in terms of lethality, and it's written. The rules are make that intrinsic. So if you're someone who doesn't like to keep track of, like, your supply is just a generalization. If you're someone who doesn't want to worry about players needing to find a safe place to rest and recuperate, maybe A5E isn't quite for you. And I think trying to remove it from the current rule set may be a little bit difficult, uh, or you would lose something in it. Um, Another reason to get an A5E are just the complete options. Every single character class has multiple options as you progress multiple levels. So there is, and I'm not talking about subclasses, I'm talking about the base class has so many options as you gain levels that you're able to, instead of having a linear progression, you're able to sidestep and uh, almost snake like move in and out of different abilities. And even as you progress in level, you can go back and have the option to change abilities because maybe your character has experienced things or is losing, like a noble cast out from the an exile, forced exile, traveling the world. Maybe as a noble, you've forgotten some of your noble heritage, and now you're more of a survivalist. Well, as you gain levels, you're able to maybe remove uh, your uh, nose in the air, stiff upper lip kind of upbringing to gain other abilities, basically exchanging one for another, through character advancement, as well as having, um, at many points, at least 4 points, if not more, in all every single character class, you have the option that when you get to a particular level to pick one of at least three options. Many of them are combat related, social encounters, and exploration abilities that allow you to customize your character. And I like that. Some people play, strangely enough, and not so strange, a lot of people play D20 games and love the social interactions and the exploration part of it, and kind of want to downplay the combat because they may feel like it's a little too clunky for them. Perfectly fine. This allows you to express that in the game. Also, uh, because the math has been redone, the the three books that are in Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition. This is two of them. It's the core rule book and the Monsters Menagerie, as well as the Trials and Treasures book. Those make up the three books, the three classic books: a player's book, um, a monster book, and then one for the narrator. The the math has been redone, so all of the monster math, the monster capabilities have been reorganized. So now all the math is linear. It makes sense. So characters that are at third level fight third level appropriate monsters challenges, whereas if you go up to 17th level, they are hitting very hard to account for their level as well. And along with the redone math with the monster book, there's lots of lore and behaviors and combat abilities, and many of their abilities have been formatted so that they fit into the rule set. So you have creatures with reactions and bonus actions, and things like that. So not only are there are have the has the math been redesigned, but you also have names associated with the sentient creatures, languages, treasure that's associated with them, built-in encounters. So some BFF creatures you may see, like hobgoblins, and they might have other creatures attached with them, like wargs or dire wolves or something of that nature, as an example. And then this is just the level up um, website that I'm just paging through here. Also, we do know here that MCDM, uh, Matt Koval, has said, so we're making our own RPG, and has talked about on his channel making his own RPG. Uh, will it be D20 specifically? He hasn't specifically stated that, but there is a book coming out called Flee Mortals. So don't necessarily think that they're going to go away from the D20 system. Matt Koval has been a big fan of fourth edition, and and intends on having epic encounters along with like I believe that design philosophy, and he's a bit of a tactician. So if you want to go for something like that, that's what it's for. Um, we have yet to see that. So in comparison to these other things, Tales of the Valiant, MCDM's own system, which doesn't quite have a name yet, Critical Role is going to come out with their own, which we haven't seen any rule set on that. Uh, A5E exists, and a compare and contrast is a thing. I would suggest taking a look. Honestly, I would suggest taking a look at uh, A5E.tools to kind of take a look at the rules if you're someone who's on the fence, just to do a compare and contrast. And just remember that um, one system is tied into the other systems. So in A5E, there are spells and there are specific rare spells that have names to them, named spells. So there's many ways for your wizard to have specific types of spells for their own character, or for to be given away by the narrator to find in this open world. There's also um, the oh, my mind just went blank. Um, Magic item crafting is a thing. So if you're a person who loves to get into crafting, or you're a narrator that wants to allow your players to start to craft magic items, it exists here along with the values and the gold piece values for those specific types of magic items as well. So lastly, I will end this with exploration. The exploration pillar in the Trials and Treasures book takes up like more than half the book, and it is a fully developed third pillar of tabletop role playing in D20. So we have a journey system. If you want to do like an overview of a journey where your players have gone through um, a dank, murky swamp and through the accursed desert, and now into the treacherous valley between the mountains or something, you can do almost a montage of sorts. Each player picks a journey role that they want to play, not limited by character class at all. On the journey, they perform those actions, and then it's almost, you could almost describe it as a flashback. Oh, along this way we discovered this. Along this way there was a trouble with this other encounter. You could do it very generalized, very helicopter. The classic image of our intrepid heroes in the Lord of the Rings movies as little specks running through a vast uncharted landscape, that kind of thing. If you want to get more detailed into it, there are exploration challenges where the players encounter the rickety rope bridge or the exploding volcano, or have to navigate through, again, the dank jungles, or past quicksand or sandstorms, things of that nature. And if you want to narrow it down even more and want to include exploration challenges within combat, you also have the ability to do that, where you can alter the challenge rating for monsters because the monster is in their own haven, and in that haven there are some environmental hazards, meaning like, let's say there are uh, salamanders that live around lava pools, and there are geysers of flame and lava that are shooting up out of the ground, or poisonous gases. Goblins that live in or kobolds that live in dark underground, and there's collapsing stone from above, and the rock is slippery, and there's a chance of cave-ins and things of that nature. You can add those into the combat so that the players may need to maneuver around the combat. Basically, the third pillar becomes the third element, which the environment becomes a character unto itself. So those are things that I think really, this is an overview of A5E. On the channel, I go into further detail, especially through the exploration challenges, and we'll get into further exploration challenges as well. Even here under the A5E tools, we have like different things like circumstances or constructed challenges. Maybe there are creatures where the creature itself is an environmental challenge, or the creatures themselves are using their environment to benefit them. Of course, there's like supernatural things. One of my favorite being the war of heaven and hell, above, when the player characters are navigating through a vast hellscape, and the angels from above come swooping down, and there's like there's fiends and celestials doing battle in and around the characters, and they have to navigate it. Definitely a very high level um, kind of exploration challenge for them to navigate, but kind of cool. And of course, there's terrain and traps. So all traps don't need to be created. I mean, traps may be created through sentient species, but terrain is natural, and they can be just as horrible, like falling rock or a natural sinkhole, um, frozen lake, and things like that. Of course, there's urban encounters and weather events, and I think having that part of the game could turn a lot of boring green screen type of battles where players turn corner, see creatures, roll initiative, and fight. Whereas A5E takes that and goes like, no, every encounter is not a battle. Um, every creature you don't turn corners and just are come face to face. And when you're if you do end up getting entangled, having some kind of conflict with monsters, the environment is should be there. Are you fighting on a muddy hill and can slide down? Is there a raging river where an ally or an enemy can get swept away through the water's pressure? Is there a major sandstorm and you're unable to see your allies and use your magic to help them out, even though you know they're lost out there in the desert? You can barely see in front of your face, that kind of thing. So those are that is my overview of why level up advanced fifth edition. And again, if you are still skeptical, if you are still a critic of something like this, I would say go to A5E, check out the tool system. um if not, go over to Tales of the Valiant, see what's going over there over Cobalt Press. Compare and contrast a lot of these things, a lot of the clones that are coming out for D20. And of course, you know, we have Matt Koval and talking about his system. I'm sure he'll be dropping more and more knowledge there. It's funny because this article is actually on N World here, so um, you can go ahead and read that. When was this? February 24, 2023. And that's it, guys. So thank you very much for being part of the show. I hope this has been helpful for you in somehow, somewhat making a decision as to like, should you bother getting into Level Up 5th edition? Have you heard of Level Up 5th edition? Maybe this is the first time you have heard of Level Up 5th edition and you want to take a look at it, and you're like, it, is this a 5th edition clone or whatever? Um, yeah, lots of choices. As a matter of fact, even in A5E, there are new choices for shield use and new helmets and new uses for your shields, such as sundering your shield to sacrifice it to escape some a critical hit from a monster or such. There are helmets that prevent you from suffering some kinds of harm and such, but also you can but those same helmets kind of reduce your perceptions. There are new materials that you can use, so that are not exactly magical, but for something for players to spend their ill-gotten gains on, such as silvering their weapons or making them out of mithril, adamantite, or adamantine. Or there are other materials such as bone and wood and stone and things of that nature. So there's other options for armor and weapons and new weapon features and new armor features and so on and so forth. um, Lastly, there's even uh, they level up A5E split the difference between advantage, disadvantage being the only modifier to player character capabilities, and using iterative modifiers. So you're not going to see, like fifth edition, you're not going to see plus ones, plus twos, plus threes, minus ones, minus twos, minus threes here and there trying to add them up. What you're also not only going to see is just advantage, disadvantage. There is something called expertise, and all characters have access to expertise. As a matter of fact, in character creation, you can specialize in your skills and you can pick an expertise that further narrows your capabilities. So if three characters each have athletics, you can have expertise in, say, climbing or swimming or jumping, something like that. So you could, and all the skills have that. Maybe you have a history skill or a religion skill, and you could have expertise with, uh, I don't know, evil cults, or you could have expertise with the lands of the East or something of that nature, depending on your world. Expertise dice, if you have more than one um, uh, avenue to gain expertise in any particular D20 roll, it starts at a D4, and they use a step dice or chain dice. So it goes from D4 to D6, D8. So if you have three forms of expertise with one die roll, then you roll a D20 plus a die 8, moving from D4, D6, and D8. That's how that works. So yeah, lots of options. It makes this game very broad instead of very um, clunky. It just makes broad options. Once those options are picked, I think you're done. But yeah, take a look at Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. It does have an unfortunate name because every Level Up is related to a lot of things. People, non role playing wise, right? I'm going to level up my body and my life. Get more motivation. Also, Level Up has to deal with leveling up characters in Classic 5th Edition, so it does get a little bit lost. So look for Advanced 5th Edition or A5E, and search for it YouTube, other places. Compare and contrast, including what I have to say. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. If you've stayed this long, please like, share, subscribe. Take a look at the archives, and just be part of the show as well. So, anyway, have a great day. I will see thee later. Peace.